In this video, you're going to learn why the single biggest financial risk most people carry isn't debt, isn't the economy, isn't even a market crash. It's something much closer to home. Depending on exactly one source of income to fund your entire life. Picture two people, both earning the same salary, $65,000 a year. One of them loses their job in a sudden round of layoffs. For one of them, it's a stressful few months, a tight budget, but they're fine. For the other, it's a financial emergency that unravels everything. Same salary, same layoff, completely different outcome. Stay with me until the end, because by the time this video is over, you'll understand exactly why that difference exists and how to build the kind of financial safety net that most people never think to build until it's too late. Let's start by ruling out the obvious explanations. Maybe you think the difference comes down to how much they were earning. Surely a bigger salary means more safety, right? Not necessarily. Plenty of high earners live paycheck to paycheck. Their spending simply rises to match their income, leaving them just as exposed as someone earning half as much. We've talked about this pattern before. It's called lifestyle creep, and it affects people at every income level. Maybe it's about how much they had saved. Savings matter, absolutely, but savings alone are a buffer, not a solution. A savings account eventually runs out. It buys you time. It doesn't replace what was lost. Maybe it's about which industry they worked in. Industry plays a role, sure, but layoffs happen everywhere. No industry is fully immune, and betting your entire financial stability on one employer in one industry staying stable forever is a bet millions of people have lost without warning. So if it's not salary size, not savings alone, not industry, what actually made the difference? It's the number of income sources feeding into their life. One person had exactly one, the other had more than one. Here's the uncomfortable truth about relying on a single paycheck. When that paycheck is your entire financial world, one decision made by someone else, a manager, an executive, a board of directors you've never met, can instantly cut off 100% of your income. Not 50%, not a temporary reduction, all of it at once. Most people never think about this risk in those terms because a steady job feels safe, it feels predictable, but predictability and safety are not the same thing. And the gap between them is exactly where financial disasters tend to live. Let's talk about where this idea actually comes from. Because relying on one income source isn't some ancient tradition, it's a relatively modern habit. For most of human history, income rarely came from a single source. Farmers sold crops but also raised livestock, traded skills with neighbors, and produced goods at home to sell or barter. Multiple income streams weren't a clever strategy. They were simply how survival worked, because relying on one crop, one trade, or one buyer was understood to be dangerous. The idea of a single stable paycheck from a single employer became the norm mostly in the 20th century, alongside the rise of large corporations and long-term employment. For decades, this felt like progress, and in many ways it was. Steady jobs offered predictability that earlier generations didn't always have. But that same stability created a quiet blind spot. An entire generation grew up believing that one good job was enough, that loyalty to an employer would be met with security in return. For a while, that arrangement mostly held. It doesn't hold the same way anymore. Layoffs today happen not just during recessions, but during periods of strong profits, as companies restructure, automate, or shift priorities. The unspoken agreement that a single stable job equals lifetime security has quietly broken down, even though most people's financial habits haven't caught up to that shift. Which brings us to the real lesson hiding inside all of this. Financial security was never really about how much you earned from one source. It was always about how many sources you could rely on if one of them disappeared. It's also worth understanding that this risk doesn't look the same across every industry, because the size and shape of the danger shifts quite a bit depending on where you work. In industries going through rapid technological change, media, retail, certain areas of manufacturing, the risk of sudden, large-scale layoffs tends to be highest, simply because entire roles can become unnecessary almost overnight. Workers in these fields often have the least warning before a major disruption hits. In more stable, heavily regulated fields, healthcare, education, utilities, layoffs tend to be less frequent and less sudden, which can create a false sense of permanent security. The danger here isn't necessarily job loss itself, but rather that workers in these fields are often the least likely to ever build a second income stream, precisely because the need never feels urgent. And in fields with naturally variable income to begin with, commission-based sales, freelance creative work, hospitality, workers often already understand income instability intuitively because they've lived with fluctuating paychecks from the start. Ironically, this group often has more natural resilience built in, simply through years of adapting to unpredictable cash flow. Recognizing which category your own situation falls into is genuinely useful because it tells you how much urgency to bring to this conversation and how much of a false sense of security your current stability might actually be giving you. Let's talk about where multiple income streams actually come from, because it's not one single formula. It tends to fall into four broad categories. The first is active side income. This is trading additional hours of work for additional money, freelancing, consulting, a part-time role, or a small service-based side business. It requires ongoing time and effort, but it's usually the fastest category to start because it doesn't require large upfront capital. The second is passive or semi-passive income. This includes things like rental income, dividend-paying investments, royalties, or a business that runs with minimal day-to-day involvement once it's established. This category typically takes longer to build and often requires upfront capital or years of compounding, but it demands far less ongoing time once it's running. The third is skill-based monetization. This is turning existing expertise into income streams beyond your main job, teaching, coaching, writing, or licensing knowledge you already have. Many people are sitting on valuable expertise from decades in their career that they've simply never thought to monetize separately. The fourth is asset-based income. This includes interest from savings, returns from a diversified investment portfolio, or income-generating property. This category often grows quietly in the background, and its real strength shows up specifically during emergencies when other income sources are disrupted. Most people who build lasting financial security don't rely on just one of these categories. They layer two or three together, gradually, over time, not all at once, and rarely as dramatically as it might sound. It helps to see what these categories actually look like in practice, because build a second income stream can sound abstract until it's grounded in real, ordinary examples. On the active side, income end, some of the lowest barrier starting points include things like proofreading or editing documents for others, tutoring or teaching a skill you already know well, doing bookkeeping for small local businesses, or offering consulting hours in whatever field you've spent years working in. None of these require special equipment or large investment. They simply require packaging knowledge you already carry. On the passive and asset-based end, common starting points include dividend-paying index funds, which require no ongoing effort once purchased, real estate investment trusts, which offer property-like income without owning or managing physical property directly, or high-yield savings accounts, which won't make anyone rich, but do generate a small steady stream that costs zero time to maintain. On the skill-based monetization end, examples include creating a simple digital guide or course around expertise you already have, offering paid workshops in your local community, or licensing specialized knowledge to others in your field who are earlier in their careers. The common thread across all of these examples isn't size, it's that each one starts small, uses existing resources, and grows gradually rather than requiring a dramatic leap. Nobody needs to quit their job, take on major risk, or reinvent themselves to begin. The goal isn't replacing your main income. It's simply making sure it's no longer the only thing standing between you and financial stability. Let's put real numbers behind this. Because abstract advice about diversifying income doesn't change behavior. Specific numbers do. Imagine two people. Let's call them Person A and Person B. Both earn $70,000 a year from their main job. Person A relies entirely on that single salary. It's a good, stable job. For years, everything goes smoothly. Person B earns the same $70,000 from their main job, but also builds a modest second income stream over time, eventually bringing in an additional $800 a month, roughly $10,000 a year, through a combination of freelance work and a small dividend-paying investment portfolio. Now imagine both of them lose their main job at the same time, in the same economic downturn. Person A's income drops to zero overnight. Their entire financial life depends on finding a new job quickly. And if that search takes 6 months, which is common in difficult job markets, they may burn through their entire savings, or worse, go into debt just to cover basic living expenses. Person B's income drops significantly too, but it doesn't drop to zero. That extra $10,000 a year, spread across 12 months, continues coming in while they search for their next role. It's not enough to replace their full salary, but it's enough to meaningfully extend how long they can search calmly, without panic, without taking the first desperate offer that comes along. Same layoff, same industry, same starting salary. A completely different experience of the exact same crisis, because one person had built a second stream and the other hadn't. Now let's make this personal with a more detailed story. Picture someone named David. David works as a mid-level accountant, earning a comfortable $72,000 a year at a company he's been with for 11 years. David feels secure. He has a good job, a manageable mortgage, and a decent 401k. He's never seriously considered building any income outside of his salary. It's never felt necessary. Then, during a company-wide restructuring, David's entire department is eliminated. Not because of his performance, simply because of a decision made at the executive level in a boardroom he was never part of. David's income goes from $72,000 a year to zero overnight. He has some savings, enough to cover about 4 months of expenses if he's careful. He assumes he'll find something within that window. It takes him 9 months. By month 5, David has drained his savings completely. By month 7, he's putting basic expenses on a credit card. By the time he finally lands a new role, he's not just financially exhausted, he's emotionally exhausted too, having spent 9 months in a state of constant compounding stress. David's story isn't unusual. It's a story that plays out, with different names and different numbers, across millions of households whenever layoffs happen. Precisely because a single income source, however stable it feels, is only as secure as the decision of the people controlling it. Now let's look at the mirror image of David's story, because contrast makes the lesson clearer. Picture someone named Karen, working in a similar role at a similar salary in the same general industry as David. A few years earlier, Karen had started tutoring high school students in math, just a few hours a week, mostly because she enjoyed it. It wasn't a major decision. It barely felt like a side hustle at all. Over time, it grew into roughly $600 a month in steady income, almost without her actively trying to scale it. Around the same time, Karen also began slowly building a small, diversified investment portfolio, redirecting a modest amount from every paycheck, not enough to feel restrictive, just consistent. When Karen's company goes through a similar restructuring and her role is eliminated, the shock is real. Losing a stable job is never easy, emotionally or financially. But Karen's income doesn't drop to zero. The tutoring income continues. The dividends from her portfolio continue, small as they are. Between these two sources, she has roughly $900 a month coming in, even before she finds her next role. It takes Karen 7 months to find comparable work, not drastically faster than David, but the experience of those 7 months is entirely different. She's not draining her savings as quickly. She's not relying on credit cards to cover groceries. She has room to be selective about her next role. Instead of taking the first offer out of desperation, Same type of layoff, similar timeline to find new work, completely different financial and emotional experience because Karen had quietly built more than one source of income years before she ever needed it. Beyond the dollars and cents, there's another dimension to this worth naming clearly: the psychological weight of having only one income source compared to having more than one. When your entire financial life depends on a single paycheck, every piece of uncertain news about your employer, a rumor of layoffs, a disappointing earnings report, a new manager coming in, carries an outsized emotional weight because your mind understands, even if you don't say it out loud, that this one source is everything standing between you and financial collapse. People with even one small additional income stream frequently describe a subtle but real shift in how they experience that same uncertainty. It's not that the news matters less, it's that it no longer carries the full weight of total financial catastrophe. There's a cushion, however small, and that cushion changes how the mind processes risk. This isn't just a nice feeling, it has real behavioral consequences. People with some income diversification tend to negotiate more confidently, tend to leave genuinely bad jobs sooner, and tend to make clearer decisions during uncertain periods, precisely because they're not making those decisions from a place of total dependency and fear. It's also worth understanding why so few people do this proactively, because it's rarely about laziness. It comes down to a very human bias. Most people significantly underestimate the likelihood of losing their job unexpectedly, especially when things are going well. When a paycheck has arrived reliably for years, it starts to feel less like something that could disappear and more like a permanent fixture of life. This is a well-documented pattern in behavioral psychology. We tend to assume the recent past will simply continue into the future, right up until the moment it doesn't. Building a second income stream also requires effort during a period when there's no obvious emergency demanding it. It's much easier to justify building a safety net after a crisis than before one, but by definition, building it after the crisis has already started is far too late to help you through that specific crisis. There are certain moments in life where starting a second income stream is significantly easier than others, and recognizing them means you can act instead of waiting for urgency to force your hand. The first moment is during a period of job stability. Ironically, the best time to build a backup income source is exactly when you don't feel like you need one, because you have the mental space and financial breathing room to build it slowly without pressure. The second moment is whenever you have unused skills or knowledge sitting idle. If you have expertise from years in your career that never gets used outside your specific job, that's often the lowest effort starting point for a second stream, because you're not learning something new, you're simply repackaging something you already know. The third moment is anytime you receive a windfall, a bonus, a tax refund, an inheritance. Rather than absorbing that money entirely into lifestyle spending, allocating even a portion of it toward an income-generating asset, like dividend-paying investments, plants a seed that continues growing long after the original windfall is gone. And the fourth moment is simply now, regardless of your current circumstances, because the earlier a second income stream starts, however small, the more time it has to compound and grow before you actually need to depend on it. So how do you actually start building this without overwhelming your life or your schedule? First, start with what you already know, not what sounds impressive. The fastest path to a second income stream is usually skill-based monetization, something built on expertise you already have, rather than something requiring you to learn an entirely new skill from scratch. Second, treat it as a slow build, not a sprint. A sustainable second income stream that takes 3 years to reach a meaningful level is infinitely more valuable than an ambitious plan that burns you out in 3 months and gets abandoned entirely. Third, redirect windfalls and raises, at least partially, toward income-generating assets instead of lifestyle upgrades. This single habit, applied consistently over years, is one of the most reliable ways ordinary people build a second stream almost passively. Fourth, track your income sources the same way you track your investments. Simply knowing what percentage of your total income comes from your main job versus everything else gives you a clear, honest picture of exactly how exposed you currently are to a single point of failure. A simple way to calculate this: take your total monthly income from all sources, then divide your main job's income by that total and multiply by 100. If that number comes out at 100%, every part of your financial life depends entirely on one employer's decisions. Fifth, start absurdly small if that's what it takes to start at all. A second income stream that begins at $50 a month is still infinitely more resilient than no second income stream at all, and small streams have a way of growing once the initial habit is in place. None of this requires a dramatic life change starting tomorrow. It requires exactly one decision today, picking a single small starting point and taking one concrete step toward it this week, however modest that step might be. Not a business plan, not a 5-year strategy, just one action, sending one message offering a skill you already have, opening one small investment account, or setting aside one small amount towards something that could eventually generate income of its own. 6 months from now, that one small step either exists as a real, if modest, second income stream, or it doesn't. The only difference between those two outcomes is whether the first step was taken today or postponed indefinitely, the way it is for most people who understand this idea intellectually, but never quite get around to acting on it. If this video changed how you think about your own income, that's exactly the point. A single paycheck, no matter how stable it feels today, is still a single point of failure. Building even one additional stream doesn't just add money, it adds resilience, options, and breathing room exactly when you're most likely to need them. At the end of the day, what nobody tells you about multiple income streams isn't some secret reserved for the wealthy. It's simply the recognition that security was never really about how much you earn from one source. It's about how many sources you can rely on the moment any one of them disappears. The people who weather financial storms the best aren't necessarily the highest earners in the room. They're the ones who quietly built more than one way for money to reach them, long before they ever needed it. Here at The Bigger Picture, we'll always explore the financial questions that truly matter, not with fear, not with sensational headlines, but with honest conversations, clear explanations, and the bigger picture behind every story.